Ellie is, in her words, killed the test.
Killed it. Dead.
So I'm assuming, without any big circumstances, that you will be licensed probably by tomorrow. Hopefully they update everything and you're good to go.
I better update it tomorrow.
It'll also be a long weekend. So, so Ellie, a couple things I want to ask you is, first off, are you excited now that you are done the test and the course?
Not at all.
Okay. So she would love to do the test, the course again.
Yep.
But for a question I guess I have for anybody new that's looking to possibly get into real estate, kind of tell them what you had to do to get to this point and what it took for you to become a licensed realtor. Hopefully tomorrow, knock on wood, let's go New York State. You know, how the course was, the test, you know, just kind of give us your whole perspective on that whole.
So I started the course, I think probably it was after my summer course. So probably sometime in September, maybe early October. And I took it through New York Real Estate Institute. And they're based in New York City, and they have a whole online course because everything else required me to travel, and I have a full-time job. It was immensely boring, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily because of the topics.
And it's 75 hours.
And it's 75 hours of just the driest.
It's
and
dry.
Some of it, I mean,
it
some
hasn't
of it
improved
was,
in 9 years.
No, I'm pretty sure they filmed it in like 2001 because they're talking about stuff that's not necessarily relevant anymore. But you know, I got through it, and it's not impossible. It's not difficult work. It's really just a matter of staying on top of yourself to get through the course.
I think it's more like, it'd be like telling somebody to to do a marathon, but you can walk it. Yeah. Meaning it's not hard. It's just like, God, this is going to take, it just seems
another
like
mile.
Yeah, exactly. It just seems like you're just like hitting your head against the wall.
Yeah.
Now, what did you take away from the test? Was there anything, because I'll give you my perspective on the test. I just kind of want to hear yours as to.
On the course test or on the state test?
Sorry, on the course. The course itself.
On the course itself, if I could go back, I would have taken it through another place. It was done okayly, and that's
good way to put it.
That's my perspective on it. I think it needs to be updated very badly. There's some information is very outdated. Yeah, that's pretty much.
Well, I think my perspective on it, at least when I took the course, is that there's nothing in that course that you're going to learn that you're ever going to take into real estate. Unfortunately, I think it's just a way for the state to have something together. Mm-hmm. When I took the test, I learned I took it, passed the test. It's almost like going to high school and you're learning a chapter of like science or history. You say history. You remember all the dates of something back in the 1700s.
When was the Civil Rights Act passed?
Exactly.
Why do I need to know that?
all this stuff, you memorize it. You do the course or the chapter test for probably 2 to 3 weeks and then take the test. Yep. And then the next day when you're starting the new chapter, new course or whatever, you forget everything you just learned because you don't need it anymore. And that's what I find the real estate test is now you did it, you passed it, good. Now like the real learning begins of actually being out in the real world, doing real estate, meeting clients, dealing with people, dealing with other agents, dealing with banks and attorneys and inspectors and all that good stuff. So I think the good thing for you now is that you actually get to have the fun part and actually, learn by doing.
Now it's time to learn.
Exactly. Learn by doing, which I think is the most important way to learn. So I do think that's kind of a negative about the course itself is I just don't think there's a lot that applies, especially in New York State. There's stuff on there about New York City. Yeah. So unless you haven't a lot of it, I mean, there's chapters devoted to high rises and condominiums and townhouses.
And there's a special sales tax in New York City too.
Yeah, and I should say like in Plattsburgh we have condos and townhouses and stuff, but not to what they're talking about. No. Not co-ops and things like that. So
there's one in Beekmantown. Fun fact.
Really? House? Yep. Oh, there you go.
Oh, it's not a house. It's a cooperative.
Yeah. So there.
Yeah.
Look at that. She's First week, and she's teaching me something. There you go. Teach an old dog new tricks. Love it. But I think a lot of that stuff is just, it doesn't, I wish there was 2 tests. There was a New York City test, and there was an actual, like, everybody else. Yeah. Exactly. Because I think it's just, they're totally different worlds.
Well, and also the course test was I took it in Long Island, and you took it where, in Westchester? Or basically New York City. And that was as far as you could go. There was nowhere closer that they offered it. And that was also rather inconvenient.
Until this week, we found out there was like a course test down in like Latham or Clifton Park or something like that. So I was like, oh, well, that would have been nice to know. But She can blame me on that because I told her to take it from that course. Now, in regards to the test, how'd you find the test?
The course test?
The course test and the actual state test.
The course test was a very interesting experience. I came in, I got there early. When I got there, because they offer the course in person as well. Apparently they teach it in a hotel. So I showed up at the hotel thinking, okay, this is where they offer the course. And I accidentally walked in on the class. Teacher was kind of pissed, angrily waved me out. And
because you were going to take the test and they were doing the course.
Yeah, they were in the middle of the course. And it was actually one of the guys from the video. He's still bumping around doing his thing.
Amazing.
So he was really nice. But during the test, so the paper I had was very old. It had a whole first of all, it had been photocopied about 10,000 times, and the notes from previous students had been photocopied off of it. So it was very ragged. There were lots of circles and marks and stuff.
Very poor.
And it was hard. I felt confident in a lot of the stuff I knew, and it was hard not to see those notes and second guess myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have preferred a fresh sheet, but I understand they're on a budget. And he also listened to Facebook videos the whole time. I have ADD, and it was very difficult for me to not want to get up and look over his shoulder and be like, so is that a dog? What are you watching?
Cat video?
Yep. But it was, I passed obviously, and he was great.
I just took the broker course, and so a few weeks back, and the same thing. I ended up going to this place that the building felt like it was a person's office space, but you showed up, and I did the same thing. I walked in, and there was 3 people taking a course, and the guy kind of was he's like, come back in 20 minutes. And I'm like, well, the sheet said to show up a half hour before the test, which I was right on time. I had driven 4 hours for this thing. So I was I showed up right on time. And so I go back and I'm sitting in the car for 20 minutes, just hanging out. I see another guy pull in, does the same thing, goes to the door, and then he gets sent back out to the car. So I'm said, yeah, you taking the test? And he goes, yeah. So we finally walk in. Well, the people sitting at the table, one guy walked out because he was just taking it was a study course or something. And two of the people stayed in there. They were taking what you had took, the actual course test for a salesperson. The other kid that walked in was a course test. I was the only one taking the broker test. But you're sitting at a card table. It's very sketchy. It's literally an old home they renovated into an office. And I wouldn't even say it's really an office. It was very poor. I looked up, and above me the floor was open. The ceiling was cracked open, and you could see all the plumbing, and it was the house was falling apart. And I'm like, but legitimately, this was the place to go take the test.
Yep.
And he was on the actual website and everything else. And I called the guy, and legit, you could go. And he called me up later and said, you passed. And I was like, but very, very sketchy. Mm-hmm. So I just find the whole, it's very odd. The state test is, you took it in Plattsburgh. I took it down in Albany at one of the big buildings down there. The state test is a little more formal.
Yeah.
Than the course test, which I get it, because the course test is kind of it's a partner to the state. It's not really necessarily state run, but it's an affiliate of the
it's
state.
just a rite of passage, pretty much.
Yeah. And then, so the state test was a little more formal. There was probably 7 or 8 people. This is when I took the broker course. Honestly, I can't remember the state test. That was long ago. Because you said you had one person with you.
I had one other person, yep.
In Plattsburgh, and so down in Albany a little bit more, but the problem with the test, which I think you could agree, was there's a lot of questions. Actually, it'd be fun to kind of quiz you probably a year, because I'll be how many of those questions were actually relevant to what you do day to day? And you're probably going to say maybe 5 to 10%.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because there was, me having done it for 8 years, I looked at a lot of the questions. I'm there's 95% of these questions are irrelevant to either selling real estate or running a brokerage. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't know why they ask them, but they do. And it's more like a history test, right? You're trying to find.
There's a lot of history in it, and I get to an extent. It is important that these acts that were passed are absolutely important. But all I need to know is don't be an asshole. You don't need to say, just don't discriminate. I don't need to know when it passed. I just know not to do it.
Yeah, I had one was what 2 were added in 1988? I'm well, they're all something you wouldn't discriminate against, based gender, race.
Yeah,
culture,
why do I need to know
ethnicity.
when it became illegal?
Exactly. I'm not going to be quizzed on it day to day, but for some reason that
I had
was
4
considered
questions about
relevant.
that too. About the different acts and stuff. Yeah.
Well, I had more on environmental stuff. I had more on legal stuff, and we don't practice law. We cannot practice law. So if anybody has a law question, I direct them to an attorney.
Just write over the sheet, ask a lawyer.
I know. That's the answer to all of them. I shouldn't be answering this because we're not supposed to. But
anyways,
rant done on that. But that's a course test. anybody that's getting into real estate, you have to do it. Just know it's not
fun.
Don't stress out about it. It's like, just think you're back in high school or junior high and you're just trying to pass a course, literally like a chapter test.
Yep.
And then once you get your license, that's when the real training begins. I would say a brand new agent, find a mentor, find somebody that's been in the business, so you're not reinventing the stone or whatever that term is.
The wheel.
The wheel. Yeah, the stone. You'll feel like a stone. You're not reinventing the wheel, and that you can find somebody that you basically can just piggyback off of and just learn, and then eventually you will I guess start, you'll develop your own language and the way you express stuff to people and the way you deal with clients and other agents and everything else. But that would be step one. So